this National Steering Committee for IDEALAB, and the steering of the National Steering Committee is very well steered by our National Steering Committee Chairman, Professor Prabhat Ranjan. Professor Prabhat Ranjan, Vice-Chancellor, DYPIU International Univerity. Also, he is a nuclear scientist. He has worked on nuclear fusion, and he is also working on nuclear fusion project. And he is a futurist, scientist. So I request Professor Prabhat Ranjan to address this gathering.
Thank you. Good morning to all of you. I'm happy to be here with Dr. Saswade, Dr. Ahuja, my colleagues in the committee. Dr. Saleh is here also. We have been interacting very often. In fact, I was to go to her place speak last week. I could not make that. Very happy to be here because this was a dream that many of us were harboring for a long time in different ways. I'll give a little bit of my background. As was mentioned that I grew up in a Gurukul style school called Netarhat in Ranchi, at about 3,700 feet high. My education started from Jhopri in class 1 from municipal schools to Netarhat, which was a Gurukul style. At the age of 10, I went there to live in ashram. My ashram was called Nalanda ashram. And the three ashrams were together in a set, Nalanda, Takshila, and Vikram, based on the famous universities that we always talk about. We used to do all work ourselves. Cleaning dishes, cleaning toilets, cleaning floors, it was all done by us only from the age of 10. At the age of 10 itself, we had metal workshop, wood workshop, agriculture, everything we had to do. We had to actually go into field, not theory. Go and field, when given plots, we had to do everything ourselves. That is the kind of training that I had. From there, I went to Kharagpur. But I was surprised to see that IIT, I did the same thing what I did at age 10 in workshop. There was no change. And that has not changed even today, probably. So, when I went to Berkeley for my PhD, the system was that if you wanted to do experimental work, you had to get certain training certified, then the key to the workshop was available to you 24 hours. You could go any time and work. It was available to you. When I came back to India, I'm a nuclear fusion scientist actually. I'm probably the first PhD from this country in nuclear fusion. I came back in an early stage when nuclear fusion was just starting here. I was in national labs at Science Institute of Nuclear Physics, Calcutta, and Institute of Plasma Gandhinagar, which is the main nuclear fusion center right now. As was mentioned that somehow, luckily, last 1 year I have got back to nuclear fusion for the first time in the country, any work of this kind being done outside a national lab, and that in a private university. So I'm very surprised. The funding is all coming from Silicon Valley. All Indians. And it's not on nuclear fusion, there are 5 more projects. In fact, yesterday we discussed 1 more project, 6 projects, all funded in collaboration with US, Indians. They are wanting to give back to India. Somehow the pandemic has helped in connecting us, and that has helped. So we have started what I call Project Sunland, and we've hired people to join. We started the work. I'm not going to that will take me away from somewhere else. Some other time we can talk about it. But when I was in Gandhinagar, I moved from 2002 to Dhirubhai Ambani Institute of ICT that was set up by Reliance Group in Gandhinagar. And I started to work. My focus has been, whole life has been on real problems. In fact, just yesterday, late night, I finished that. I was writing a blog on my work with disability sector. It's a very long thing. I said 16 minutes read. I don't know how many pages I've written. But to cover all the work that I've done, I have missed out hundreds of other cases. Now there I had to make sure that something we make works for the person whom I have made. It is not to publish papers. If I just publish paper, it doesn't work, it's useless. And we learned so many things. You test in lab, it doesn't work because the user's requirement is different. We could never put it to the test. I remember a device we made where you could tap it twice to help a girl who could not speak, could not move. And we never tested because that girl did not have a fine control over her hand. So when she was tapping, she hit so hard, battery in the device would come. So we had to redesign the whole system. Customize is very important. So Gandhinagar also what I did the same thing, what we are discussing today. My lab was open 24 hours. In fact, you have to meet my students, I have to go at midnight because that's where you'll find all of them. Other time, you will not find them. So you don't know where they are. In fact, I remember there were 2 students working on a project. The boy used to remain in the daytime from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. in the night. The girl used to remain rest of the night whole night. 24 hours they used to work in cycles. That was the kind of culture that we had. It was a residential campus, so it was easy to do that. There we had the PCB milling machine and so on. And I think around 2005-06 we connected with Dr. Ranjan also, you had come to Gandhinagar, and our focus was same, working on real problems, and that required to change the way curriculum was designed. I remember the days 2002 when the AICTE committee had come to Gandhinagar. It was so rigid, and I'm so happy to see that change today. That we had created a new discipline called ICT, Information and Communication Technology. AICTE refused to consider that. It is not in the list. So that flexibility that NEP 2020 has brought in AICTE itself has undergone major change. I've tried to do the same in my university, and thankfully AICTE has been part of that. So this whole concept of working with hand was very important in my life. When I was in Gandhinagar, I don't know, some of you might not be aware of the gentleman, Dr. Motwani, Rajiv Motwani. I'm not sure how many of you know, but he is the mentor of Google co-founders. And I think it was Dr. Ranjan Gadre's introduction. Unfortunately, he was my junior in Berkeley, 2 years junior to me from IIT Kanpur. He went to Stanford as a professor. What you see in Google, all the happening, he was also a part of that. Unfortunately, due to some very strange situation, he expired. I don't remember which year. But his family members set up a Motwani Jadeja function. His wife, Asa Jadeja, is from Ahmedabad. And I think they wanted to set up fab labs across the country. And I think they were in touch with you. And probably through that, they came in contact with me. The niece, I think her name was Karishma Jadeja. He came and met me in Ahmedabad. We wanted to do that, but then I was just moving to Delhi at that time to get TIFAC in 2013. So I said that I would not be able to personally be involved, but that idea was in my mind how to get it done. When I moved to TIFAC, it's no coincidence that three of us were colleagues. So Yashwant is here, Dr. Neil Saxena is here, all of us were there. We were watching technology, we were working on Technology Vision 2035. We were seeing the changes that were happening. One of the documents we prepared, Yashwant's group worked on this because we were looking at patents. We found that the patents were expiring around 2013-14. And our document said that this is the time when there will be massive drop in the cost of 3D printers and other things. So we brought this into our documents also. 2016, Prime Minister released the Technology Vision 2025 document. After that, we had many sessions across the country. One of the sessions in 2016 was in Nagpur, VNIT. Dr. V.K. Saraswat, Dr. Kakutkar, three of us were sharing session. I talked about Technology Vision 2035. One of the slides I mentioned was that China, 400,000 or 500,000 primary schools that they have, each one has a 3D printer already. So I said that India is lagging behind tremendously, we have to do this. I'm very happy to see that after a few months, Atal Innovation Mission started, Atal Tinkering Lab started. In fact, we run a school in Patna, actually, my family was involved, which is running in rural areas. What Dr. Sadhu is talking about, these are people, children who have never seen, school education because their parents have never been educated. They are the ones, they are the best workers. You go in class 5, 6 students, talking about sensors and everything, they make robots. Atal Tinkering Lab, of course, came later on, they got in the first round itself. So then TIFAC itself, of course, had set up, Dr. Neil Saxena was part of that also, Mission Lead program, where TIFAC, industry and academia are coming together. In PhD college going to around 2000. A rapid prototyping facility was set up, but that time costing crores of rupees probably. I don't even know the exact value. But the 3D printers, earlier versions, costlier versions were set up there. And I was happy to visit there in sometime 2013 and 14 to see that they have continued forward. The project period was over. They invested more money and they're doing wonderful work. One of them was actually a child whose skull was distorted, some surgery had to be done. They did scanning of that, created 3D printed skull. Doctors practiced on that and then did the actual surgery. And this was done long back, must be around 15 years ago, because of that facility being there. Not only that, there were dentists in Coimbatore area, 6 of them who were using 3D printing of ceramic dental implants. So Coimbatore started the trend. So I wanted to get this done. So through TIFAC. TIFAC was not supposed to fund things, although we had funded earlier, and the miscellaneous program was part of that. But TIFAC's role was as technology think tank. So actually we tried very hard with Department of Heavy Industry. We tried to set up 10 places. The cost was roughly 1 crore, the similar cost that we are talking about. The 50% is coming from institution, 50% from AICTE. It went to get a stage, but I don't remember exactly what the stage got stuck in government systems. Sometimes you don't know where it gets stuck. Or maybe I moved out in 2000, my senior got over, or something else happened. I don't remember exactly. That didn't happen. And when I came to university, the first thing I did was to start setting up fab labs. So even without any government support, the first thing I did was to start setting up. So last year, 2020, when Dr. Leo Saxena requested me to chair this committee, I was so happy to be there. I was already familiar with many of them. And fortunately, the committee members are all passionate towards this cause. So that was something you don't find that including the chairman SAT himself was so passionate because he had been part of this himself. That is very rare to see in most of the committees that we serve, where people don't take it as a passion. But this committee is full of passionate people who believe in the cause. It is not that they are serving there just because they are head of some government institution or something. They all have practiced this. And in fact, yesterday night, I was writing a long story about my involvement in disability sector. It's more than a decade of experience. And there I needed exactly this whole thing, customized equipment. And that was very difficult to do it in any other way except for technology like this. So, the IDEALAB, now that we inaugurated sometime back online and so on, this is the first one where physically we are meeting. We have been connecting through this. And this is the start of this. Three requests I have. One is that we have been talking about this, is that it should become part of curriculum, yes, in model curriculum, so that it spreads in a bigger way. We found that many institutions have the resources on their own, or they almost have all the facilities. They were coming to SAT only to get recognized as AICTE approved lab. So money is not an issue. So many institutions, especially those in metro cities, which were not considered this time, we had kept them in the second choice, have the resources, or they have all the facilities also. They just need to be brought in this. So I'm calling this IDEALAB is not a scheme, it's a movement actually. Movement that needs to spread across the country, and that's where AICTE's role is very important. The second point is my personal thing. We need to learn to work with hand. It's our social culture issue where we discourage children to work with hand from childhood. When you go to US, like I spent 5 years there, or my daughter, son-in-law, everybody is there, they work with hand. I have to do everything myself. I have to be under the car almost every alternate weeks. Because getting car repaired, of course it's an old car, just would have been more costly than the cost of the car itself. So, but the same person goes to US, changes, and come back to India, then you change again completely, you think that you can't do anything else. So working with hand, of course, Corona showed us that you have to work with hand, otherwise they will not survive today. So working with hand is very important. I have a scheme called 1-in-1. Please encourage children to work 1 hour in 1 week, at least with hand, things we consider dirty. That is very important for this lab's success. Lab is not simply to take photograph, make video and share on Facebook or website. That the purpose will not serve. As Dr. Sasputi mentioned that the students have to be allowed to work on these. That is the culture that we would want. So that 1-in-1 that I talked about is basically a social and cultural movement which has to start from childhood. And unfortunately, our school system, by the time you come to 8, 9, 10, you start preparing for competitive examinations, we don't consider working with hand important. Even in school, labs are ignored. Only thing that is done is that how to influence the external examiner who is coming so that you get 80, 90, 20 marks out of it. That is how it is done, unfortunately. But I remember after 2010, I went to my school, the Art School, after 40 years. And what did I do first? I went to physics lab. I wanted to do some experiments which I had done at that time. I was so enjoying, in spite of high PhD physics, I wanted to go back and do those experiments. There was one with magnetic field. You had to, these iron filings you had throw around, put magnets and see the field of line split. I went and did that. And not only that, there were 2 of my other friends, one in Princeton, and they all enjoyed it. So that is the love we need to have for experiments. marks are not as important as some of this. And they are the best things. So I'll stop at this point because time is short. I don't know whether I'm already taken more than my time. But I welcome all of you to this, and the committee is dedicated to this cause. And we hope that more and more students will join. All of us are together in this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Prabhat Ranjan, enlightened us with a wide spectrum of technology domain, working as a nuclear scientist to the working with the disabilities of the coffee. Thank you, sir. Now we have with us